Most gamers roll their eyes when Grandma points out the violent nature of what she sees on the screen, from playing soldiers on the battlefield to witnessing in-game killings in graphic detail. Have you ever wondered if Grandma has a point? Today, we cover a case of two best friends who took their obsession with first-person shooter games a little too far. Best friends who challenged the notion that violent video games might not always be so innocent after all. Today's case is that of teenage gamer duo Bryer Schmegelsky and Kam McLeod. My name is Zach, and you are watching Crime Origin. Bryer Schmegelsky and Kam McLeod met in their local elementary school in the small fishing city of Port Alberni in Canada. As two quiet young boys, their friendship was instant. With a common interest in playing video games, it wasn't long before the friendship grew stronger. Everyone in their school knew they were best friends and enjoyed their company, taking pleasure in their humorous nature. With Bryer's parents splitting up in 2005, his dad, Alan Schmegelsky, had less and less influence in his life and struggled to maintain the support his son so desperately needed growing up. He lacked so much support that he eventually dropped out of school due to learning difficulties. Having aspirations to join the Canadian Army, Bryer took up GED studies in hopes of achieving this dream one day. Unfortunately, once again, without the necessary support from his parents, he began to struggle. Finally, at age 18, he decided to abandon his hopes and get a normal job. He managed to secure a position alongside Kam at the local Walmart. Kam and Bryer continued to grow closer, having now grown up alongside each other, only to end up in the same circumstances. Feeling pretty miserable about their lives after about 5 months of Bryer's employment, the two teenagers decided it was time to move on in search of greener pastures. Before this, Kam and Bryer spent most of their days in a regular pattern: work, video games, sleep, repeat. Both teenagers played online games with their other gamer buddies almost daily, upholding a good reputation for themselves as cool, kind-hearted teens. Well, for the most part. While Kam loved to play more fantasy-type games, such as League of Legends, Bryer began to sway more in the direction of first-person shooter games like Call of Duty. For most teams, parents need not worry about their children's video game habits, as millions of players around the world play first-person shooter games without a problem. However, perhaps caution is necessary for those teens who try to turn fantasy into reality. In the previous 3 years, Kam and Bryer loved to take inspiration from their video games and would play War in the Woods, learning survivalist tactics and camouflage. Bryer also desperately wanted to learn to shoot a gun in real life. One Christmas, Alan Schmegelsky surprised his son Bryer with an airsoft rifle so he could play his survivalist games and learn to shoot with a toy gun instead. And as a proud father, he used this new hobby as a chance to bond with his little boy and snapped a picture of Bryer practicing to remember the moment, a picture that would come back to bite him in the events to come. Still, no matter what anyone had to say about the father's precious child, Alan always held his son in high regard and talked about him and Kam as non-violent, good people. So you can imagine that when the news spread of Kam's truck being found in flames with a body lying just 2 kilometers away, all the concerned father could do was worry for his son's safety. Unfortunately, between 2017 and 2018, Bryer's interest in first-person shooters, games, and war turned into a worrying obsession. It wasn't long before he started sparking controversy from his unnerving in-game comments like, "Imagine this was real," followed by conversations praising the likes of Hitler, Vladimir Putin, and Donald Trump. He also shared pictures of himself armed, wearing a full army uniform and Nazi memorabilia. Bryer began losing all his friends as they became too uncomfortable with his problematic views and comments. Well, all his friends except for one, Kam McLeod. With Kam by his side, and his unhappiness intensified by the loss of his friends, the need to leave his hometown of Port Alberni became more desperate. So on the 12th of July, 2019, the two friends packed up Kam's truck and told their family and friends that they were headed to Yukon to earn some real money. Sadly, the following week, 2 bodies were recovered along the Alaska Highway. Then, just days later, the boys' truck was found in flames, with a 3rd body suffering similar injuries to those before. With none of the bodies resembling Kam or Bryer, and talk of the boys' innocent nature, missing person reports were immediately issued for their safe return. Missing person reports that would soon transform into the status of Canada's most wanted fugitives. There were only 2 people that were destined to fall in love, sharing a mutual passion in life. Australian Lucas Fowler and American China Dyck were those people. The 2 avid travelers met by chance while visiting Croatia, and their bright, carefree personalities were an instant match made in heaven. On July 13th, 2019, Lucas and China pulled over at a gas station in Fort Nelson, BC. They were completely head over heels, hugging and kissing with no care in the world. After filling up their blue 1986 Chevrolet van, the couple hit the road, taking the Alaska Highway towards the Llers Hot Springs, a popular tourist destination in BC. With their van being an older, self-fixed model, it didn't take long before something went wrong, and the van came to a broken-down stop about 20 kilometers from their destination. Being the free-spirited, positive people that they were, this did not faze them at all. They took the opportunity to have a romantic roadside picnic, giggling while they drank chocolate milk and snacked on cheese. In the early hours of July 15, 2019, a humble trucker drove down the Alaska Highway, noticing a blue van with its back window smashed. He quickly stopped to investigate before calling 911. Sadly, the picture of 2 happy young people warmly smiling at each other had turned into a horror scene with bullet thread bodies that were cold to the touch. China Dyck, 24, and Lucas Fowler, 23, were found lying face down in the ditch near their van with multiple bullet wounds. However, what investigators found curious was that the bullet wounds faced both directions. Police also discovered bullets embedded in the blood-soaked ground beneath each body, indicating that whoever murdered these 2 vibrant souls continued the attack long after they had fallen to the ground. After the brutal attack and murder of Lucas Fowler and China Dyck, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, or RCMP, were on high alert to find who was responsible. As they began the investigation, the last thing they expected was for this to only be the beginning of a sadistic blood trail that would ultimately lead them on a 3,000-kilometer cross-country manhunt. On the 19th of July, 2019, just days after the tragic death of China and Lucas, the RCMP received a call reporting a Dodge truck up in flames near Dease Lake, about 470 kilometers away from the original crime scene. The truck is identified as Kam McLeod's vehicle, and a charred body is just found 2 kilometers away, covered in both knife and bullet wounds, using the same gun that befell the previous victims. The unknown body is later revealed to be the popular UBC botany lecturer, Professor Leonard Dyck, a 64-year-old husband and father that was well loved by his community. As officials investigate the scene, a few odd details jumped out, causing concern for the remorseless mental state of their mystery killer. The perpetrator had left McDonald's takeaway fries scattered around the body, with the famous red and yellow packaging on the ground between the older man's legs. There were also unused plastic cable ties near the body, countless cigarette butts, and a Red Bull can. After the discovery of poor Mr. Dyck, who was in the area peacefully camping out on his own, attention quickly directed toward the 2 missing boys. Where were Kam McLeod and Bryer Schmegelsky? Had they too been taken hostage by this mystery killer, only to turn up dead over the following days? After all, they are just 2 introverted loners, as reported by McLeod's parents. They aren't capable of anything sinister. Or are they? With no answers in sight and no leads for potential suspects, hundreds of families lock their doors in fear as the mystery killer with a taste for innocent blood is on the loose. One witness, Kenneth Albertson, reported a close call with someone trying to ambush him while he took a nap along the same highway as the other killings.
When they got closer to me, they slowed down slower than walking speed. And then the passenger door on the truck opened. Someone stepped out holding a long gun. And that got my attention. He closed the door and the truck drove off, leaving him standing there. And at that point, I realized this feels like an ambush. If I don't take action quickly, I'm going to get blocked in.
Meanwhile, Kam and Bryer, now driving the stolen vehicle of newly deceased Professor Dyck, go on the run. They stop by a local restroom just kilometers away from the murder scene and wash the blood off their soaked bodies. Trying to conceal their identities, the boys tape stripes across the bonnet and back wheel cap of the gray 2011 Toyota RAV4. Thankfully, it isn't long before they leave a trail strong enough for the local RCMP to catch them, and the two best friends' missing person status is transformed into something more. As they leave the restroom, Kam leaves behind his pocket knife and his employee ID card from Port Alberni Walmart, which would soon be found and reported by a traveler. In an attempt to keep the police off their trail, the two gamer buddies, gone rogue, decide to pull the car off towards some trees near a small community town called Sundance and set it alight with matches. From this point, it didn't take long for RCMP officials to put two and two together. On the 23rd of July, best friends Kam McLeod and Bryer Schmegelsky are officially announced as suspects in the killing of Lucas and China, as well as the UBC professor, Leonard Dyck, and becomes Canada's most wanted fugitives. The public is urged to consider the pair armed and dangerous, and a massive manhunt is set in motion for the two teens. With no other leads besides a few casual sightings in the Gillam era of Manitoba, the search intensifies, and on July 27, 2019, military forces send a CC-130H Hercules aircraft with thermal imaging to help locate the boys. Police presence eventually scales back on the 31st of July after no sign of Kam or Bryer becomes evident, despite searching more than 11,000 square kilometers of land and over 500 homes and buildings in the area. Kam's family makes a statement saying, "We try to wrap our heads around what is happening and hope that Kam will come home to us safely so we can get to the bottom of this story." Meanwhile, Bryer's father, Alan, continues to talk and do interviews with the press.
I did not program my son to hate. I did not program my son to act out in violence. I did not give my son a firearm. But we still need to know, where did two teenagers get firearms?
Finally, on August 2nd, tour guide Clint Sawchuk reports seeing a blue sleeping bag at the end of the Nelson River, close to Hudson Bay. On August 6th, local Fox Cree Nation member Billy Beardy takes officials down the Nelson River in a motorized boat. They retrieve the sleeping bag, including several other items linked to the boys. With hopes of finding the two fugitive teens, after all the time, effort, and resources spent, RCMP members beg Billy to take them down the Nelson River one final time to bring this manhunt to an end. On August 7th, Billy agrees to one last search mission along the treacherous banks of the Nelson River. As the water and land rush past the boat, with only seconds to scan the riverbank for any sign of the boys, no one can seem to notice anything new. Until, suddenly, Billy notices a raven fly up over the bushes. The RCMP members didn't think much of the raven, but Billy, a First Nations trained wildlife trapper, knew exactly what it meant. He pulled the boat to the side of the bank, and what they discovered haunts them to this day. The team found the two rotting corpses of Kam McLeod and Bryer Schmegelsky, lying with their two SKS semi-automatic rifles and a video camera. Sadly, the only closure anyone will get from this case is the 6 confession tapes left on the video camera, a camera that the two boys stole off their third victim. On the tapes, Kam and Bryer admitted to killing all 3 victims and left details of a suicide pact that they had clearly fulfilled at the end of their journey. But before Kam shot Bryer and then himself, the two had said that they now plan to go back to kill more people and expect to be dead in a week. Unfortunately for the victims' families, Bryer and Kam left no motive in the tapes about their killings and showed zero remorse. With all the speculations about pro-Nazi memorabilia and a dodgy Facebook page linked to their accounts, the true mindset of these two gamers is largely unknown. According to Alan Schmegelsky, Bryer may have been suicidal. He said a normal child doesn't travel across the country killing people. A child in some very serious pain does. He just wants his hurt to end. He was also very upset to hear that Kam had been the one to shoot his son before killing himself. However, after all that's said and done, I guess we'll never truly know the full story of what Kam and Bryer really had planned, and how it ended so abruptly on the Nelson riverbank. There are so many unanswered questions, and the true events of this case will remain a mystery forever. If you found this story compelling, don't forget to like the video, comment your take down below, and subscribe to the channel. Also, hit that notification bell in order to stay up to date each time we reveal a new shocking case.